Welcome, everybody. This is Ted Shull, Editor-in-Chief for Dateline Downtown. I'm here with Juan Hernandez, the Assistant Editor.
Greetings, everybody, once again.
And we're here with one of our very talented writers and reporters, Mr. Joshua Burgman.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
We wanted to bring you this podcast just to have a discussion about race and perceptions in Houston and in society in general. We had an incident that occurred about a week ago that took many of us by surprise. Why don't you tell us set the scene for us, Joshua?
Okay. Well, during one of our staff meetings, which was actually a very important staff meeting.
The last one of the semester.
Yeah, which we actually did a podcast over, talking about our funding situation and things like that. We were here having the meeting, and our intern made a comment stating whether or not basically could have been a black person's fault as to why funding was being withheld, or as to why checks haven't been going out to reporters and staff members on the Dateline staff. And basically she just said, well, is it a black person? That's the reason behind it. And for me, it was completely uncomfortable. It was the first time I had ever experienced that type of just, I guess, blatant racism, because I asked her to repeat what she said, and she repeated it with no problem. And so it made me very uncomfortable. And I'm sure, anyone who else heard it, I'm sure they were uncomfortable as well. So that was pretty much the basis of it. But I believe that because of, things that are going on in the country right now, and just period, like it was unnecessary. It was an unnecessary statement, and it wasn't really the right place at all for her to say something like that. And it had nothing to do with while we were meeting.
And it's just so, I don't know, I just cringe every time I go back and listen to what she said, because it really didn't click when she first said it. And looking back now, I'm like, man, why would you say something like that? I don't get it.
And just to clarify, it was a diverse group of people in the room.
That's true.
But you were the only African-American person present at that meeting, though we do have more on staff. You were the only one present at the meeting. But it was a diverse crowd.
Right.
And I personally this comment didn't even register with me.
Right.
And I found that you brought it to my attention later on in the day. And I asked myself, why didn't I hear that?
Right.
And it's almost like I feel like my brain is so conditioned. I was brought up to oppose racism and to accept everybody. And I've never associated myself with racist individuals, at least knowingly. Never been in that kind of situation. And I feel like I kind of unconsciously blocked it out.
Right. But sometimes I believe that just may be like we would say like a home training type of thing, because I can relate totally to what you're saying. When me and my brother were brought up, and my little sister, my parents taught us that you don't see color. Yeah. Even though we are people of color, you do not see color when you're talking to anyone. And so for me, my brain is kind of conditioned that way too, to not see race. But then we have to understand the reality also. We live in a world where racism exists, and really at this time it's more blatant than it has been in over like 50 years or so. Like it's getting worse. And people would say, oh, it's 2014, how could you say something like that? But that really goes back to just the way I say a person was raised, or I would say like education, because like educated people, or people who who are raised up the right way, that's not even something that you would even think to say. So I mean, it really isn't, because like you're saying, that's, for you, it was weird. It didn't even register to you. And for me, it was the same way, because it's like, did she really just say that? Like, did it really just happen?
Yeah.
And
I guess my brain didn't want to believe it, didn't want to process it.
Right, exactly.
You know?
And it's something that, I don't know, maybe our brains we don't think on that level.
Yeah.
And she's a Hispanic individual, so imagine how she would feel if you were to say something like that, but just kind of turning the tables a little bit, saying, well, what if it would have been a Hispanic person doing that, or just blatantly say, what if a Mexican was doing that?
That's so true. I thought about that, like, that afternoon when I went home. I was thinking about that. I could have easily said to her, really, like, what if it was a Mexican person? Because it's just like, it didn't have anything to do with what we were talking about. The race of the person had absolutely nothing to do with the problem.
Wasn't mentioned by,
anyone.
Yeah.
So it's like, why did that even come into your head to say that? And I actually, coming from a black perspective, I was upset at myself later on that evening, because I didn't address it at the time. Like you said, I told you later on that day. And in retrospect, I'm really irritated with myself, because I felt like I should have said something to her at the moment when she said it. But like I said, that was the first time that I had ever been in that type of situation. It was
the first time? You've never...
Yeah,
wow.
Seriously. Like, I have never had anyone... Like, I'm trying to think, and I've never had anyone and be like that blatant with it. Like, it was just... Like, I was sitting right next to her, so clearly there was a black person in the room.
Yeah.
So for her to have said that... Like, and then I asked her what she said, and she repeated it with no problem. So for her to have said that, apparently that's something that she's used to. It's not, I feel like if you're able to say something that easily, then you have to be used to that type of behavior, or that type of talk. But yeah, like, for me, that was the first time that had ever happened, for it to be so, like, in my face.
Ted, and based on your upbringing, what you were talking about earlier, have you ever been in a situation like this before?
No, I haven't. It was the first time. I was raised in New Orleans, which is a pretty racially diverse city.
Right.
Everybody in New Orleans gets along for the most part. We don't, and I think New Orleans is a little more integrated than Houston. What really shocked me with this particular individual is that we are like not freelance journalists, but we're not professionally trained journalists.
Right.
We're not professionally trained communicators.
Right.
We are doing this out of love, and learning as we go.
Right.
This individual, I'm not going to name names.
No, we don't want to give her any more publicity, so
yeah,
it's not important.
But she is a professional communications major, and this was her final semester, and to have a professional communications major be able to make a comment like that in a room full of mixed company, journalists at that,
right,
I found very disturbing. It almost made me sad to see her graduate. You know?
Right. Yeah, because it's like, what has she learned? Because as, like you said, as a communications major, then, that should be like one of the first things you learn. That's a hugely controversial statement.
Sure.
And I think that she should have known to, I guess, kind of censor herself, even if that is really the way that you feel. Why say that in front of a room full of people that are supposed to be colleagues?
Yeah, just pretty much keep it to yourself.
Exactly.
Don't just blurt it out in the middle of a very important meeting, like you were saying.
Exactly.
We're talking about our financial dispute. We're not talking about race here.
Yeah,
what does that have to do with it?
And then going back to your earlier point, like, she was Hispanic. So, Hispanics and black people, I tend to think, are kind of like, we're kind of in the same group together.
Yeah. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So to have her say something like that, it's just like, oh man, I thought we were family.
It kind of goes on to show you the type of person that she is, because, I also wanted to bring this up too about her whole internship. You know, Ted, you can attest to that. I mean, all the stuff that she made up in her, what was it, an evaluation?
A final report on her internship.
I was stunned at everything that she put on there. I'm like, none of this is true. Maybe like 2% of it.
Yeah. She did write 9 stories, none of which we were able to publish partly because they were not written in AP style, not written in news story format, which is common for English majors. You know, it's a skill. Learning how to write a lead and write an effective news piece is a skill, like we were talking about at the last podcast.
Right.
And I don't think she grasped that skill. But regardless, this individual committed to us a certain number of hours per week, and she basically disappeared on us.
Right.
Only to show up at the end of the semester when it was time for her to get everything signed and in order.
Yeah, it's like a student, you know, begging for a passing grade, you know, towards the end of the semester. If you don't do the work, then how are you gonna pass?
Right.
I mean, it's I really told Ted, I told him, dude, like, just be honest in her evaluation, and you know, I mean, we know what she did, so.
Yeah.
But I think it's important what you did, even, you know, regardless of not if she graduates. I think it's important that the letter that you wrote to her advisors or whoever you had to write them to, that Dateline as an organization just shows that we do not tolerate that type of ignorance and that type of discrimination.
Because then in the end, it all falls on her. If she ever goes out there in the real world and gets a real job, you know, one little mistake like this, she's going to get fired.
Right.
And then she's going to apply to another job, and they're going to ask her, why'd you get fired? Well, I said this, or I did this.
But honestly, you know, I have to say that I was, in the end, I think that I'm more sad for her than I was offended by her comment, because I believe that there's just a lack of education there. Because, you know, if you look, like, you know, we were talking earlier about the whole since Obama has been elected and how race relations are in this country. And right now, they're just at a critical point. And especially to be, like you said, a communications major, you are in the know. So you know what's going on in the country right now. And to see the type of anger and the type of just hostility that comes out of racial animosities like what happened with her, you would think that she would kind of tailor herself or to you know, try to do better. You know, Oprah Winfrey always says, if you know better, you do better. So hopefully she'll learn one day that that's not cool. And it's sad that she doesn't already know that, but that's okay, because
and she might learn the hard way.
Yeah.
And that's okay though, as long as she learned though. Some people just need to
learn the hard way.
It has to get in, you know, it has to get into them differently.
Yeah, she may end up being on the other end of it, so you never know.
That's very true, but then that would be, I believe that would be good, because it would be a different perspective for her to understand that, wow, when people make comments like that, it hurts.
And this comment we don't know if it was intended as a joke or what.
Right.
It almost seems like it was intended as a serious statement, because she was not laughing.
Yeah, she wasn't.
It was not a joking context.
Yeah, it wasn't like, all kidding aside, folks.
Yeah, like no LOL, nothing behind it. So
yeah,
it was. That's why it was sad, because, like I said, you know, if you the seriousness that she said it with, it just kind of seems like that's common. You know, that's kind of common or banal for her to have that type of behavior or to speak that way when she's around other people. And like you said, with her being a communicator, that's really sad, because in the future, if she were to ever say something like that in a professional setting, like you said, she'd be fired, or there would be just like serious repercussions for that type of statement.
I just wish her the very best. I just, you know, hopefully her you know, state of mind changes regarding all these things, and, you know, all the best of luck. I don't wish any bad feelings or anything towards anybody, but I really do wish that she would change the way she thinks about these type of things.
I do too, because like I said, it's just really sad.
Yeah.
And as a communicator, that's ineffective.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, to me, it's just ignorant, and it doesn't do anything for society. It doesn't do anything for the people that you're working with personally, because after she said it, I was sitting right next to her, and after she said it, I felt very uncomfortable sitting next to her. Like I said, that was the first time I had ever been in that situation, and I didn't know how to handle it. I actually excused myself from the restroom, and I had a little chat with myself.
Pep talk.
Yeah, a little pep talk, and came back in and just, said, calm down and just, conduct yourself like you were before she said it. But when I came back in, even though I was trying to just move on, I just still internally, I still felt very uncomfortable sitting next to her. And that's why, that even surprised me. Because I am one of those people that really takes what other people say with a grain of salt. I could really care less. But it was really uncomfortable to know that she actually felt that way, and we were sitting next to each other. So it's like, wow, I'm working with this person.
Yeah, had it been someone else, who knows? Someone else might have just clocked her in the mouth out of nowhere.
I consider that. No, I know I'm joking, but I mean that would have,
because there are people that
that will take it there.
Other people say things like that, and then just out of nowhere, just clock them in the mouth or hit them, whatever.
And like I said, I wanted to say something.
Could have started a riot.
That could have been the case.
I mean, that could spark. That's just completely uncalled for.
Well, I wanted to say something to her then, but I felt like that what we were at our meeting for, it would have taken away from the entire thing. And now, like I said, in retrospect, I'm upset that I didn't, because I should have. But hey, like I said, when you know better, you do better. So next time, if that happens, hopefully it won't be a next time. But if that happens next time, I think I'll be better prepared because of this incident here. So I'm just really sad for her, though, because I hope that changes. And, just like I said, considering the way things are now, it was just a really bad time to make that statement. I mean, she shouldn't have made it, period. So
I just want to read this statement that I wrote to her advisor. One very distressing incident was brought to my attention after our last staff meeting by two people whom I trust. According to these witnesses, she made a comment that could bring into question her ability to communicate objectively with people from different racial backgrounds. I feel it is significant enough to make you aware of. If you require any more information, please feel free to contact me. And I want to add that I spoke to this advisor over the phone and told him that I expected an apology before she graduates on Saturday.
Right.
So she is set to graduate this Saturday. So I'm hoping that we will have some kind of apology from her.
You know what, though, honestly, if it doesn't come, hey.
Of course.
Whatever.
Yeah, but like I said, it's all on her, so.
Right. And then that would be sad, too, also for the university. Because if you are made aware of this type of behavior and then
to condone that?
Yeah, it's condoning it. Not for them to not expect her to apologize and just to carry on as if everything is okay.
I agree with you completely. I was thinking last night that this makes me think that the value of my degree goes down.
Yeah.
Because of someone like this graduating.
Right, exactly.
From our school,
And that, that's honestly, that ties into the whole
it does.
Black Lives Matter thing right now. I feel like if they don't seriously look into that or tell her, you should apologize, even if she doesn't, just like you did with the letter from Dateline. It's acknowledging that we don't support that type of discriminatory those type of discriminatory acts. And so if the school were to let her carry on without doing anything, without having any type of repercussions, it would make me feel like they didn't care about my feelings as an African American being in the school and being discriminated against like that. but like I said, you gotta roll with the punches. So if it would be nice if she did apologize. If she didn't, I wouldn't. It wouldn't matter because I mean she's already distributed the type of behavior that, that.
And I know as a professional communications major, you have to take ethics courses. You have to take ethics in the media. As journalists, we have a code of ethics.
Right.
One of them is minimize harm. Which, she obviously didn't internalize.
Exactly.
Obviously didn't learn that lesson.
And like I was telling Ted before we started, next semester is our last semester as editors and as students. So we're really going to come down really hard and, drop the hammer on as far as, the financial situation and, what people's roles are with Dateline and stuff like that. Because, with this happening with you, Joshua, and, the whole financial, it's being settled right now, the whole financial dispute. But, there are people that were working with us that were holding us back because they were not getting paid. Yes. And other people demanding more money for stuff that they're taking credit for, but they didn't even do.
And people like Joshua who picked up the slack and wrote additional stories.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you.
To cover for those people.
Well, more on that for the new year. So I mean, it's really stuff that Ted and I are really gonna have to work at. We're gonna have to. We didn't want to come down as really, really strict, but based on the circumstances and all these situations, we're gonna have to.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but I have to make this reference. You guys are reminding me of like Obama and Putin right now. Remember at the beginning, he goes, "Wait till my second term, I'll be able to do something for you." Yeah,
just wait, and then the second term comes. It's like whatever.
So it seems like the second term, you guys are gonna drop the hammer. So you can.
Well, as you know, we have plans to expand with EGMN.
Yes, which I'm very excited about. That's going to be so cool. So,
because like I was saying, you have people like yourself picking up the slack, and I'd say about like 3 or 4 other writers doing the extra work, and everybody else just flaked. And it's like, well, what do you expect? If you're not here putting in effort, then you're not going to get paid, or you're not going to take credit for that.
Right. I think that just goes to like their level of commitment. It's kind of, sometimes it's hard to be committed because some students would look at Dateline as an extracurricular activity. This is things that we do outside of our classes. I know I work full time and then I also have full-time classes, but being a part of Dateline has become a great passion for me. Being a part of this organization is something that is a potential career builder. And I think it's important to have a level of dedication and commitment that, shows how bad you want this, how bad you want journalism to be something that's a part of your life. And, I believe that the whole issue with our intern that kind of shows how much our commitment is there and how but that's okay though, because it's nice when people show you their true colors.
Yes,
it really is.
I mean, lying on an internship, that's Ted and I did internships last summer.
Intensive internships where we had to show up every day on time.
You treat it like a regular job.
Right.
That way, when if you want to come back and apply, they'll hire you right away. I wouldn't hire this person at all.
But like I said, there you go, true colors. That's what it is right there.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. So, outside of that, though, we have what happened today, the whole Obama-Cuba thing. We were talking about that.
This is very controversial. Many people, such as Senator Marco Rubio, have issued statements condemning the president's actions. But I just want to state what we know to be true so far, that 2 American political prisoners in Cuba have been released, and 3 Cuban political prisoners in the United States have been released, and they are attempting to normalize relations with Cuba. which is an incredible step. The U.S. closed its embassy with Cuba in 1961.
Oh my goodness!
So it's been over 50 years.
I was watching The Godfather 2 the other day, over the weekend, and it reminded me of
Great
it.
segue.
Yeah.
The Godfather. But you know what? That's so true though. Like you said, it's a huge deal. But I think it's a step in the right direction.
Oh yeah.
Because I believe what we've seen out of President Obama so far in his presidency is not what everyone was expecting. And I think a move like this is what people kind of expected out of him. It's political courage to do things.
Commentators on CNN were saying the exact same thing.
Oh, okay.
This is not your typical lame duck president.
Right.
Executive action on immigration, major climate deal, now normalizing relations with Cuba, which no president has had the courage to do.
No president wouldn't even
Kennedy.
touch that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even look at it. So.
And it's interesting. I've been studying economic sanctions in my international political economy class, and Cuba is the only country that the U.S. sanctions 6 countries, and Cuba is the only one that we sanction, but we don't give an official reason for sanctioning.
Right.
We just sanction them because they're like a thorn in our side.
Right. So, but that's good that he's making this type of step because
course.
it shows. I think it shows a different side of America. Because we've always been this country that has been this superpower. Well, of course, after World War II, we became this huge superpower that no one can touch, and it's like what we say goes. And for him to just completely mix it up and just change it up with Cuba and try to
Normalize.
No, thank you. Try to normalize the diplomatic relations there. It's a good thing. Like he said, it's political courage. It's something that Obama always said that he believed. Benjamin Netanyahu has never had political courage to change the situation in the West Bank, and for him to go back to Cuba, I think that's a great thing because they may have a lot of things to offer for us that that we could gain from.
Well, the UN has voted for the last 10 years in General Assembly. It's been 188 to 2 countries to get rid of the U.S. sanctions on Cuba.
Besides the U.S., what was the
Israel.
other country? U.S.
and Israel were the only 2 holdouts saying the U.S. should keep these sanctions. So the UN has condemned the U.S. for these sanctions, because when you impose blanket sanctions on a country, it affects the entire population.
Exactly.
Not just the leaders.
Right.
The leaders actually profit from it sometimes.
Right.
At the expense of the people.
Which to me makes it hard for the U.S. to say, look at how the people in Cuba are living.
Yeah.
When some of our sanctions are the reason for that.
It's
It's hard to condemn them when we kind of play a role in what's going on over there. And honestly, with the way police brutality and things have been highlighted in this country lately, I really feel like we have no room to talk.
Yeah.
So, but it's good.
And the torture report.
Oh, exactly. Yes. There you go. Dick Cheney saying he'd do it again in a minute.
Of course.
But so that's why I believe we have no room to talk when it comes to things like that. So normalizing the situation with Cuba is a huge step, and I think this is the first of many steps that he's going to make that people are going to think that are just really controversial in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Like you said, outside of immigration, and then we have this. Who knows what's next?
Yeah.
Who knows? He just signed a $1.1 trillion spending bill, which is good. Keep the government going for at least the next 9 months. So who knows what's going to come out of the White House next? It'll be nice to see, though.
Part of what one of the political prisoners who was held in Cuba was arrested for trying to install portable Wi-Fi satellite connections because the Cuban general population has no internet access.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the steps that Obama announced today, that they would set up Wi-Fi service in Cuba, help to establish networks, data networks, and incorporate Cuba back into the global economy.
Right.
So I think it will definitely benefit the Cuban people.
Oh yeah, with all your online gambling and such.
Yes.
And all that good stuff on the internet. There's a lot of good stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
There's bad stuff too, but you don't really want to look at the bad stuff.
I've always wanted to go to Cuba. I've always wanted to travel to Havana. It's a dream of mine. Yeah, I love Cuban food. I love the music, the culture.
So we have to get on some Beyonce and Jay-Z type statuses to travel to Havana to be able to do that. And right now I'm not there yet, so it would be nice if the sanctions and the embargoes would be lifted so that we'd be able to do that. Because I have to be honest, like right now, I can't see a real reason for us not to have diplomatic relations with Cuba.
I mean, the rationale for so many years was the Cold War, communism.
Right.
You know, that is now over.
But really, it's like, how many other countries that are actually our allies that we can actually say that about? I mean, when the Arab Spring started, we were getting criticized for being allies with Bahrain, you know? So it's like, how many countries that we deal with that do things that we turn a blind eye to? So.
Speaking of which, we've normalized relations with China,
right,
which is still a communist country.
Mm-hmm.
We've normalized relations with Vietnam, which we fought a very deadly war with,
right,
which is still a communist country. So
You gotta watch out for North Korea, though.
yeah,
You gotta have that whole thing going on right now with the whole Sony thing, the whole hacking.
You know, I was talking to my brother about that this morning, and I think the U.S. is kind of treading on water here when it comes to the whole North Korea thing, because you have a lot of cinemas saying that they're not going to show this movie, what is it, The Interview?
Yeah,
with Seth Rogen, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't a plug. But you have a lot of cinemas now saying that they aren't going to show this movie in their cinemas. And I think it's important that we show North Korea, because it's clear that this is probably who's hacking Sony. It's not a definite thing. We don't know for sure. They're denying it, but
or that they may have hired a
third party.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I think it's important that we show them that this isn't phasing us, because by pulling the movie out of the cinemas, it's showing that they kind of have a voice here. They
Sure.
and it's important for us to show them that they don't do that. Even with the AMC theaters, recently that was just picked up by a major corporation out of Asia. Mm-hmm. So now an Asian company owns that, but actually a Chinese businessman, and Chinese and North Korea have great relations.
Yes.
So, I'm worried that the Chinese will get AMC to try and not show that movie in their theater, and I just think it's a little scary if that happens, because it's showing North Korea that what they're doing is effective, and it's not.
They announced yesterday that remember the 11th of September.
Right.
They said that they were planning some kind of 9/11 style attack.
Right.
On theaters, but that's not realistic. National security experts don't expect that to be a realistic threat.
You know what, though? Listen, and this may be a little belly close, but honestly, bring it on. Because I think the one thing that I can say that I love about this country is that in times of stress and things like that, like when 9/11 happens, this country pulls together like never before. We know how to come together in time, like in tough situations like that. And right now, I think we could use that.
Yes.
Right now we could use that, especially with everything that's going on. It's about time that we had a little unity. So,
Absolutely.
Hey, North Korea, bring it on,
Those are fighting words, pal. Bring it on.
I know, I know I shouldn't use that, but I just know that
that's a great idea. That's a great comment.
Well, no, I don't want them to do anything
No,
crazy.
but,
Yeah, but
the unity that you're talking about is desperately needed.
It is. It's true.
And it's sad that it takes something like that to get it in this country.
Right. Well, I mean, that is sad, but to know that we are capable of doing that when something happens, like when 9/11 happened, there's no black, white, Hispanic. It's just we're Americans.
As long as we don't resort to enhanced interrogation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Unless it's Dick Cheney.
Yes.
Well, it's necessary.
Yeah.
So.
But I think with the whole hacking thing, and we're always going to be vulnerable with stuff that's going on online, whether it's online banking or they say it's secure. You shop through our website, it's secure. How secure is it? You really don't know. So you just got to be careful with everything that you do online, and just with the whole iCloud thing and stuff like that. But
it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I mean,
it's only going to get worse. So
it's going to get to the point where we don't have privacy anymore, and that's going to be a big issue.
Oh, I thought we were there. I mean, Facebook can access my camera and my microphone, right? When I have my
all your apps like Instagram and Snapchat and stuff like that. It's like, where's this? Your photos and videos are deleted as soon as you send them. Like,
and that's not cool.
They're going somewhere.
It's scary though. That's why you have to be so careful with what you put on Facebook now. And like as like us as communicators, I'm glad our intern didn't write that on her Facebook page, because she would have erased it. But once you have it on the internet, it's there forever.
Yes,
so that's really scary to me too, because I know when Facebook, when Facebook first came, I was like a dumb teenager, and I was posting everything that happened in my relationships, and I'm so afraid that when I actually start to do something with myself, that's gonna, someone's gonna come back and say, hey, when you were 16, you were talking about this and this and that. Well, that was when I was 16.
Yeah.
So.
I think it'll be water under the bridge by then.
I would hope so, but hey, they still talk about Obama's birth certificate, so who knows? Who knows about that?
Best bet is to just stash your money under your couch and wait for the dollar to collapse or whatever.
Oh, seriously. I hope it doesn't. I hope it's not as bad as the ruble, though.
Yeah. So. Really.
Did you know that overnight, right? I think 17%. That is ridiculous. So it jumped up by 7%, right? Because at first it was 10.
It was 10. They raised it in the middle of the night.
Right. That, to me, what that says is desperation.
Yeah.
Like that is.
And the banks say they can't afford to pay that interest.
Right. So what's gonna happen with that? Like
they one foreign policy expert was speculating that either Putin will give, eventually cry uncle, and pull out of Crimea, or more likely oil prices will start to rise again.
Right.
But in the long term,
not again.
I think it's interesting that the House of Saud is showing that they're not fazed at all by the gas prices dropping so low, or oil dropping so low. I think that's very interesting. They're showing the world, that they are no longer just supremely sufficient on their oil sales, and they're showing the U.S. that now too, because we're number 2 in oil exports in the world right now.
Yes,
which is pretty awesome for us. Hey,
Yeah, it is.
But I think that's very interesting that they're showing us that they're not afraid of what's going on, and because 10 years ago that would not have been the case. They would have been in a panic.
Oh yeah.
In Saudi Arabia right now, but that's not happening. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how this all turns out.
It will.
So.
And with that, we want to thank Joshua for coming on the show today.
Thank you guys. I had such a good time. So thank you.
And we'll have you back
For all the people out there, I mean, you guys know the websites already. Datelinedowntown.com, datelinedowntown.com/podcast, and hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. We only have about 5 subscribers on there.
We got one more today.
One more today.
Yeah, you guys got to get up on that. What's the problem?
We have to let the people know.
Oh no, not y'all. I mean the people.
Oh, the people.
I'm talking to the people.
Okay.
People, what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on, guys? You're listening, but you're not subscribing.
Seriously.
No, but they're listening. I keep track of the numbers. We're getting some decent listens, but the YouTube channel's up there. We've made the full jump to YouTube. for our podcast. SoundCloud was it's a big hassle with SoundCloud.
I'm sorry. Oh, and please hit me up on Twitter and Facebook, guys. Like my page. Facebook, Joshua Burgman. And Twitter, it's just joshua.burgman. My last name is Burgman.
And our Twitter handle is @thedateline and uhd.edu/dateline. And Ted, anywhere people can find you personally?
Absolutely. Ted Shull on Facebook, @TedShaw1 on Twitter. And you can always find me at Dateline. Email me at dateline@editor@yahoo.com.
And of course, my Twitter handle is kind of lame, but it's Juan_A_H. Capital A, capital H. So I'm still not verified yet, but you can find me and follow me. So you guys have all the websites on there, and just thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Happy Christmas.
And hey, happy holidays to all the people listening. By the time this goes out, probably be maybe, I don't know, before or after Christmas. Who knows, but it'll go up.
Either way, stay tuned.
Stay tuned, guys, and go Gators.
Go Gators.